Hey everybody, it's Erik J. Olson back for another Friday at noon Lunchtime Live. And today I have a special guest, Jay Livingood from Yellowdog Software. Hey Jay.
Hey everyone, how are you?
It's good. So I've known Jay for many years now. I don't even know how many, 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
We've kind of run in the same circles, and I think we did a little bit of work together and talked about some other work. But Jay has a really interesting entrepreneurial story, and COVID hit him pretty hard. So what we want to talk about today is, what COVID kind of did to his business and how he responded. And so he had to take really massive action very quickly, and things have turned around. So before we get into all that, Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Great. Jay Livingood. So I'm the founder and president of Yellowdog Software. Yellowdog Software, we developed a inventory management system, and we bolt that system onto what are called point of sale systems, typically retail or food and beverage point of sale systems. And really those systems operate across a lot of different market segments, from traditional retail, brick and mortar, to resorts, to restaurants, to stadiums. We kind of span a wide swath of hospitality, sports, and then some general retail.
So I have a little bit of experience with point of sale systems from when my wife ran a bakery, and I insisted on getting a POS, which stands for another acronym as well. And I mean, I'm sure that they've improved quite a bit in the past. But why don't you maybe can you kind of explain like a point of sale system just for anyone who's not familiar, and kind of sort of how it works, and then what you bolt on that's not usually there.
Yeah, so typically, I mean, the main rule of a point of sale system really is to allow a business to enter in orders, whether it's a restaurant entering the guest orders or it's a retailer ringing up whatever the customer's buying, get to a total, make sure the tax is correct. And then, eventually they added in all the credit card ability, take a credit card, be able to charge that for the guest. And then really provide the business with the reporting of here's what you sold. And then most of them added some type of inventory. Usually retail systems usually had some base inventory system. Food and beverage systems typically didn't. And so that was an opportunity that there's all these point of sale systems out there. They're constantly having to improve what they do, which is really, how do we ring up orders better? How do we have customers place orders online? There's a whole bunch of things. And inventory is really a spot that most of these companies, they just kind of lose focus. It's not a revenue generator for them. So they just kind of let a company like ours be able to provide that business need.
Cool. All right. So for the POS companies, the companies that make the software, it sounds like they kind of sort of have an inventory solution, but it's just very rudimentary usually.
Yep.
And just not quite enough. And I would also imagine as you work with, or as you have bigger customers for the POS system, they have bigger needs for inventory management. So your bread and butter is to bolt on and provide that advanced inventory management.
Yeah, and kind of the genesis of it. I mean, this gives you an idea of where we started. Is my background. I've owned a couple other companies before that, but when Yellowdog, the idea for Yellowdog got started, I was selling into resorts, and I was selling a golf and spa package. And I think it was the second prospect who said, "Great, well, we use this point of sale system, and the golf and spa product worked with that." But the guy said, if you're bringing that to the table, you also have to bring a retail inventory to work as well. And that's where I kind of was like, oh, well, I had a background in that. And I said, well, let's take a look and see what's in this industry in what's referred to as lodging hospitality. So resorts, casinos, and hotels. And took a look around, and I was like, wow, there's not much. What is there is really expensive and was not very good. And I just said, you know what? I know how to do this. This is a perfect opportunity. And I'd started a couple other businesses before. So to me, it just was like a perfect situation. I was like, this is exactly something that I can jump on board.
Nice. And did you have all the skills that you needed yourself to build this thing?
No. Fortunately, I had a friend of mine who was a programmer developer, and he was at a spot in his life where he said, "Jay, I'd love to go do something. Do you have any thoughts, any ideas?" And I said, "Matter of fact, I do. Let's go build an inventory solution." And at that point in time, I was thinking, okay, we'll do some retail and some golf shops, some gift shops. Let's see where this goes. So no deep strategic plan. That's quite honestly, up until the last few years, I've never written a strategic plan, but I didn't back then. I just
you know what? But it seems like most companies that have done fairly well for themselves, that's the course of action they take. I feel like you see an opportunity and you focus on taking action. Very similar to what we're going to talk about later about COVID, where you take massive action right away, and then you kind of figure out is there a more efficient way. What always bothers me about like startup competitions and this, even sometimes the startup community, is the focus on 100-page business plans before you do anything. And working on a 100-page business plan is not actually working on your business. And projecting out 20 years what your revenue is going to be. You have no idea if people even want to buy this thing. So it seems like it's always important just to build it at a minimum scale and then put it out in the wild and see what people think about it.
Yeah, I think if I'd done a 100-page business plan, I don't know if I would have done it. Just to be honest.
Well, and you're right, because you probably would have made it a lot more complicated, right? Because you would have anticipated a whole bunch of roadblocks, and then you'd add in complexity right off the bat when you don't need it.
Yep, yeah. Agreed, 100%. So anybody looking to start a business, take a little bit of a look and go. That would be my advice.
I completely agree. Build something minimal, get it out there, get feedback right away. So, all right, so you and the timing just seemed perfect. You had an idea. You had a buddy who had the skills to build it. How long did it take to build it? And who was your first customer, if you're okay sharing that?
Yeah, so it took us about 6 months to build it. And this guy's name was David. And I looked at David and I said, "What do you need to stay alive?" He said, $1,000. I said, "A month." I was like, "Okay, all right, well, let's go. I can pay you $1,000 a month. Let's go build this thing." So we were building it out. I was kind of doing a lot of the business, like it needs to work like this. And he was doing all the UI, all the database, everything about it. And what happened is one of the clients that the company I was working for at the time had sold a golf product to this resort. And they had gone out and bought one of the inventory systems in the industry, and it had failed miserably. And we were just about at the point where we kind of had version 1. And we introduced it to them and said, "How about we give it to you? Zero. I mean, just if you'll help us move it along, we'll give it to you." So the developer went on site and literally stayed on site for 28 days straight. And it kind of went like this, which is the first day was, "All right, let me show you how to set up an item. And what do you need to do tomorrow?" "Oh, well, tomorrow we probably need to print barcodes." He goes, "Okay." So he would go back to the room that night, right, pound it out. And then that repeated. "What do you need the next day? What do you need the next day?" Well, after 28 days, we had a viable product, and they were happy. And so that was the genesis, and the rest is history, if you will.
That's incredible. Total focus and dedication. Certainly in the early days to get the company off the ground. I love it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you give the product away for free, which I think is a really good move too, because you need a client, you need a testimonial, and then you start to get clients. And how long before you got kind of like the clients that you were really hoping to get? How long before it kind of took off, if you will?
Well, I mean, it depends on your definition of takeoff. So we started in really our first project. This resort was the end of 2007. If anybody remembers 2007, we went right into 2008 and 2009, which are terrible years, particularly at that point in time, the hospitality market. But the best thing is about having zero revenue and zero clients. Anything is a win. So we had one client, so we were 100% growth, and then we got a second client and third client. And I think after the first year, we had roughly about a dozen installs. And then the next year, we probably got 24, and then we got 34. And it just has, scaled up every year since. And we got some really just great clients right off the start, not mom and pops. We got some really nice hotels, casinos, and resorts that were, significant brands. And fortunately for us, we've kept a 98% retention of our retail clients over 14 years. So most of these folks are still with us today.
Oh, that's incredible. Wow. And especially since you went right to your ideal type of client. I know for us, it took us a long time to kind of figure out who we wanted to work with. And in the meantime, we worked with everybody. But it sounds like you had at least like a size of client or a client with a particular problem in mind. Who are some of the clients you work with these days?
So there's kind of different lanes that our business operates in. If we stay in our genesis, which was this lodging hospitality, some of the brands we work with now are Omni, Four Seasons, Auberge, Montage. We work with the Plaza in New York. They're install the Ritz in London. So we have some really marquee lodging brands. And they've really been helpful to us. They've really, given us feedback and allowed us to grow and change and enhance our product. We got into sports. One of the things, and that's part of our COVID story, is that we take care of sports and arenas. And, so some of the clients in that realm are the Maple Leafs, the Raptors, the Angels, OKC. But at the same time, we also have an individual retailer in Spokane. We have one hospital gift shop somewhere. So we really do kind of span this big range of an individual client, mom and pop, to these larger brands. They all have the same needs, and our software scales up. So whether you don't have to be an Omni to take advantage of what we do, you just have to be a business. And I always tell my people, if we have to explain the value of inventory to anybody, you just need to stop, because we need them to already be there. So that's really our client base is really the operator who understands the importance of managing inventory, because it's got a cash flow and a profit impact.
I love that statement. If you have to explain the value of your offering, then it's probably not a good fit to begin with. Yeah. I feel the same way. So, for us, digital marketing, if I hear from like a salesperson or even if I encounter this with a prospect where they don't really believe in this whole internet thing, I'm not going to spend but so much time trying to convince you that the internet is probably the future and, other types of advertising probably are not. You have to, if you don't come in with a baseline, it's probably not a good fit. So,
yep, 100%.
Let's kind of fast forward a little bit. I appreciate the backstory. I always find that really fascinating and interesting to hear how people started their businesses. But we wanted to talk a little bit about COVID, and so at this point in your journey, it sounds like you have, going into COVID in March 2020, you had different industries that you service and different even sizes of companies, from that gift shop at one hospital to big marquee brands.
Yeah.
How did COVID kind of unfold for you? Like for us, it was. I remember the date. It was March 16th when I got that first phone call from a client. What was that the same time frame for you? Did it happen a little bit earlier or later?
No, it happened right at the same time frame. It was probably the most fast event that I've ever been a part of. Early March. Going into 2020, I'm telling my team this is our year. We've been hard at work. We've done all these major moves, and now it's the time where we could actually capitalize on everything that we've done. And in January, we're way over goal. February, we're way over goal. I'm in March. I'm up in Toronto. I'm visiting with the Leafs and Raptors. I'm pursuing another major sports client in Toronto, and we've got some really clear runways. And then, March, I think it was, we saw the crack in March 10th. And then like every day was like dog years. Like every day was like a typical month in terms of the emotional journey. And then all of a sudden, March 16th, March 17th, the music has stopped. It's dead stopped. And I'm looking at all of my business, which is, other than the restaurants, we're really non-essential. The resort's non-essential, sports arena's non-essential. And we just look across it, and I was like, oh my God, I've worked 14 years and this is going to end like in a month or 2 months. I just short circuited my brain and my heart and a lot of things. So it was a shock. It was an absolute shock.
And I'm sure you felt the same way as I did. I felt like deflated at least the first couple days for us. And I felt like I recovered pretty quickly, but yeah, it was gloom and doom. Everyone was talking about how the world was coming to an end and everything was going to stop as far as business. And I was seeing it very clearly in our business right off the bat. So yeah, it was frankly depressing, like for several days.
Well, my whole company, we do user conferences. So we were gearing up to have 50 people from all over the country in our office. And then the first call came in saying, nope, we just got the mandate. We can't come, no travel. And then all of a sudden, like half of our attendees canceled. And then we were still sitting there thinking, well, maybe we can still have it. We'll go get some Clorox wipes. And and then all of a sudden we realized this is over. Like this user conference isn't happening, and a lot of things aren't going to happen. So yeah, it was dramatic. It was
dramatic. Absolutely. So did you start getting the same phone calls I did? Like our biggest client was like, we're done, can't support it.
Well, the biggest thing was, all of a sudden, of course, we really have two parts to our business. We've got our recurring revenue from our existing clients, and then we've got our new revenue from, what we're selling and the new projects. And we had just gotten a really, really big casino project, and then, and they were getting ready to pay us a deposit, and all of a sudden there was no deposit. And then a call from them came in saying, project's on hold. And then I start talking to all my sales team, and they're like, no, every project's on hold. Our pipeline just went from this to nothing. And then I'm like, well, about half our business is recurring revenue. And I was like, well, we still have that. And then the phone started ringing, and it was like, we need to get on hold. We need to be suspended. We need to get reduction. And so it was really like the whole floor of everything just kind of went out. And we didn't know how far we were going to fall. No idea.
Wow. Yeah, I know. Terrifying, huh?
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's talk about, what did you do? How did you respond? And, how did you go about business?
Well, the first thing we did is we really looked at what could we control. Obviously, expenses. We were like, well, we can control those. So we have to take advantage of that. We were really quick from a furlough perspective. I hate to even say that we furloughed anybody, but we did. Fortunately, I'm in a business group, and one of the exercises I had done probably about a year and a half earlier was a planning for recession, planning for impact. And so fortunately, I already been through the emotional, what are all the cuts? How are we going to go through our team? If this happens, what's that progression look like? And it was, I think we had 4 or 5 rounds of cuts within that plan. So we grabbed that, pulled that out. It was, a year and a half out of date, but we quickly took a look at it and say, okay, at least we now have a mechanism that as we see revenues come down, we don't want to do any of this, but if we have to, we're going to have to make these decisions and furlough people. And so we did our first immediate, because we saw our pipeline go to literally almost zero. In terms of anything for the next 3 or 4 months. We were like, we have to make some moves right now, and then just work through all the expenses, eliminating or foregoing or pushing off every expense possible, talking to the banks, talking to everybody. And then, we even went as far as went to our employees and said, don't contribute to your IRA because we have to match it. So don't do that type of thing. So it was really more like just almost like what's the street fighting moves you have to do, in the moment. There wasn't a whole lot of strategic decisions being made. It was more just like survival. So we acted on those pretty quickly and got everything down. And then it was really like, okay, now we need to start looking at the business. What are we going to do with that? How do we grow this and survive?
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I was in a similar situation going into 2020 where I was thinking about recession because, at least in the business community, that the circle I run in, it seemed like people were all saying, yeah, 2020 is the year for a recession. We're overdue. but I never could really understand why. Just enough time had passed between the last recession and the current date.
Yeah.
So I had looked into recession proofing the business as much as possible, and I bought a book and I talked to a lot of business owners and people that had been through it before. And I didn't go as far as you. I didn't have a furlough plan, but actually, what I realized from all the research was the way that you recession proof your business. At least what I got out of all that research was basically have just a really solid business where you communicate with your clients a
Yeah.
lot. It doesn't take into account though if your industry or the industries you support just stop.
Right.
So that was, I don't know if that's ever been experienced before, and that's what seems to be different with COVID.
Well, I'd recommend any business have that plan, to have that exercise, because that really took the emotional burden. It was like, where's that file? Let me go look at that again, as opposed to like, I'm sure a lot of people were like, I can't even consider that. It's just beyond our emotional, capacity at this point.
Yeah.
Then the next part was really, all right, let's look at all of our business. We kind of made, some key decision, which is if anybody calls for reductions, we're just going to give it to them. We're not going to drag our feet. We're not going to not answer the phone. We're going to let this, because, we're in lockstep with our clients. We got to help them succeed. And if we're an expense they can cut, we got to help them do it. We're in it for the long haul. So, and then it was really like, biggest thing was change of attitude. We're a very reactionary company. We're service-oriented company. So I have an entire company of great employees who do everything that you ask them to do, and are eager to serve. Well, COVID hits, all of a sudden that goes out the window, which is, yes, we have to service our customers, but we really need to start looking at what's everything else that we're doing. And I literally told them, if it doesn't make money today or tomorrow, don't do it. Your prospects you're talking to, is it today or tomorrow? Because if it's more than that, push it out. So everything became a very narrow, we have to look at everything. What can change today or tomorrow, and that's it.
Yeah, like you said, I think you said it before, strategy kind of goes out the window, and now it's like survival. And it's interesting you say that if it doesn't make money, like don't do it. My dad, who was an entrepreneur, he had a saying, if it doesn't make you money or save you money, don't do it. So yeah, and especially in times like that, you just got to focus on the bottom line for sure. All right, so how are we doing today?
We're doing well. We have people talk about the recovery, what's it like, and there's all the V recovery and the L, and we had a V. That the downward part of the V was I don't even call it a V. It's almost like a one line down.
Yo.
So whatever that is, it's a V that's turned on its side because it was dramatic. But we have just, the next, I think in April, we were 20% of our goal, and then 25%, and then 30 and 35. And so we have, up until last month, we came pretty close to getting back to goal, mostly because we're starting to see, fortunately, a lot of our clients are corporate type entities who are planning out of what they're trying to get accomplished 5 months from now. So we're part of that now, that we're seeing contracts come in now in December, anticipating that these markets open back up in April and May. So they're planning ahead for that. So that's good. And we've seen some markets, have been, just like probably any business, there's some markets and some businesses that have done well in this. And, the club and golf market has done well, or not has fared poorly. Breweries, have done really well. I wish we did nothing but service PPE manufacturers and ventilators or something like that, but that's not in our business. So we're hopeful. We're not out of the woods by far, but we're hopeful that we're on the right path.
So I think this discussion has been really good for anyone who's in business, in particular business owners, to kind of like get a couple of ideas about what they should think about and how to recession proof their business. This won't be the last one. This may not be the last coronavirus pandemic. I mean, certainly this is not the first pandemic in history. right? So this could very easily happen again, and it could very easily happen again, maybe in a few months or years, right? But if not a pandemic in our lifetime, recessions, they come and they go.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you, if you kind of had to summarize maybe like 2 or 3 like kind of key takeaways for lessons learned during the pandemic, what would you think those would be?
I think really probably the most important thing is really managing cash flows well, even in the best of times. We didn't do that. We let our accounts receivable get up there. That really caught us off guard because when the music stops, cash is king. So I would tell people to really develop a good cash strategy. And then, to constantly push into, the most important thing you can do is be, a revenue channel for your clients. A lot of our folks are retailers. We helped a lot of people get into e-commerce over the last 9 months.
Nice.
Very honorable to think that we could give some people some lifelines where they were stuck otherwise. So I think anything you can do to create new revenue channels for your clients helps guarantee the success of any business.
Love it. So help your clients make money, not just spend money on your service.
First and foremost, absolutely.
Yeah. And then when you get that money coming, well, when you have the opportunity to make money as a business, make sure you get it quick, right? And then make sure you know where it's going. So yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of maybe even comes back to what I was saying about like all that research I did. It's a lot of the fundamentals, right? You got to make sure the fundamentals are solid going into these kinds of recessions. One other thing I do want to point out that you had mentioned before we went live was diversification of client sizes.
Yep.
We had that going into coronavirus, and we saw that was an advantage for sure. Because some clients, that first day I got that phone call from our biggest client, but there were a whole bunch of other clients that were doing great. So I think just like with investing in the stock market, you want to diversify.
Yeah, I think anybody, if you own a business, you're going to have to keep your COVID hat on to say, is my industry that's 80% of my business, could it be shut down like this? If the answer is yes, prepare accordingly. Either diversify or make sure you have the cash reserves to weather it. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's probably stuff our fathers or grandfathers told us, we just didn't listen. So
awesome. Love it, Jay. Well, thanks so much. If anyone wants to look into you a little bit more or your company, where's a good place that we can send them?
Best place, just jump out to our website, yellowdogsoftware.com, and happy to share my thoughts with anybody. So feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jay. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Erik.